Oh, hello, and welcome back to the podcast on this week's episode. Oh, I was actually working on getting the last week's episode up on time for once, and it there were just a lot of weird audio glitches that went on getting it. Uh, I had to go back through and just a day just did not work for one of the files for some reason. So I had to go back through and take out I had to take out that day, and I'm going to have to redo it, but I'll get it uploaded. I definitely feel a lot more like I can do this now that I'm not quite as stressed at my job as I have been. It's still not terribly pleasant. It's still definitely not able to get everything done that I want to, but it's gotten better, and I still feel quite a bit of burnout, but it is definitely better than it was. Oh, but I really think I just am still think I'm ready to move on to somewhere else if I can find a good place, but I looked at a couple of jobs and then realized job searching is just as stressful as work. And I think it's just getting to be a bit overwhelming with everything going on. But I remember job searching is rough, and hopefully it isn't too bad. And I'm kind of taking it slow since I'm not looking to leave super fast for sure. I kind of want to stay around at my job at least until we get some bonuses because they said that we're supposed to be getting bonuses from the project that we're working on right now, but I think it'll be still several months before they start handing those out. And I mean, I'd like to stay around until that happens, but if I get a good opportunity, I know that I won't want to miss that. Oh, but it's just been a Monday. Pretty good amount of being busy and just not really tons and tons of energy. But I was able to get up and run this morning and right at sunrise. That was very nice. I definitely enjoy doing that. Oh, it's hard to get up and out of bed on time for that though, because you just feel so tired some mornings. But overall, I think it's fine. It's gonna be okay. Getting back in the swing of things and figuring out, oh, just figuring out what good schedule will look like, because I think I need to refigure my schedule a little, get in a good routine. And traffic is just horrible today. Sorry I'm not talking as much and as coherently. I don't have a specific conversation topic in mind, and also it's just super bad. I just hit a traffic jam, like full on standstill. I'm not moving at all. It's not really common in this city, but it still does happen from time to time. Oh, I definitely noticed that I tend to have a better time keeping a string of words going when I'm not focused so much on myself, but rather when I'm talking about another topic that I'm interested in. When I focus more on myself, I tend to have more halting words and not as clean of a train of thought or clear of a train of thought. So I just end up kind of bouncing back and forth between words and conversations, whereas I've gotten pretty good at kind of continuing conversations on and on when it's not something so self-centered, I guess is a good term. But it's just sometimes difficult to think of separate conversation topics to come up with, especially just coming straight out of work, because I have it on my mind, so I want to talk about it, but and use this kind of podcasting time to decompress a little from work and move more into a home mindset. Oh, but I also don't want to just talk about. I at one point I considered just talking about the things that I saw outside the car to kind of inspire conversation topics, but I feel like that definitely wouldn't always work and might get rather repetitive. But it seems good to do. I like a good enough idea from time to time. But I just saw a yellow car and remembered my daughter was over at her cousin's, and she found one of her cousin's old toy cars that he doesn't play with anymore. And so her aunt said that she could keep them, a few of them, and she picked out the yellow cars. And she really liked all the yellow ones for some reason. She hadn't really liked any other things that are particularly yellow. Like usually she kind of goes for the blue or the pink, but she went for the yellow ones. So she has those now. And last night she fell asleep with those in her hands. She was playing with them all the way up until bedtime. Oh, but they're like a good, I think, like 5-inch long little toy car. And she's only a little 2-year-old, so those are pretty big for her. And it was funny because she was wanting to carry them with her everywhere. So cute how little kids are like that, just carrying around their toys. Oh, but I've another subject change, but I got a smartwatch. I think I touched on it briefly, but to start kind of just I wanted to start tracking my health a little better, and also on top of that, I was wanting something else to kind of control the music from my phone with, rather, because I kept hitting the volume buttons on accident on my headphones, and so I was wanting to, like, sometimes it wouldn't pause, so it's a lot easier to just hit the button on my watch and pause the music rather than the headphones. But yeah, it helps with just tracking exercise a little better and encouraging good sleep because it kind of helps show my sleep patterns a little bit better, which I used to not do just because it was kind of one of those things where I was semi concerned about privacy, not super concerned, but a little bit concerned with privacy issues. But at this point, I'm just kind of thinking, what on earth is somebody going to do with data based on when I'm asleep? Because, but the other thing was just I didn't want to wear a watch at night just because I was worried about it being uncomfortable. But it's been pretty comfortable wearing it at night. I've done it for about a week now, and apparently I'm a very light sleeper in terms of the type of sleep I get, which I know that the biometric data from the watch is not going to be 100% accurate, but it seems to be pretty accurate as to when I fall asleep and wake up and all that. But yeah, it was showing me that I'm not getting much deep sleep, so I don't know what exactly is causing that. I was thinking it might be because I've been drinking 2 cups of coffee instead of one, but that's not like that much coffee. And that's the coffee I drink isn't even very high caffeine, really. So I don't really think that would be doing it. I think it's just because I've been sleeping or getting to sleep later and not in a good routine. And I haven't been exercising as much as I really should probably. So I think with some increased exercise and a little more awareness of it, I think that'll be good for helping me get into a better routine overall. But it is weird thinking like you're tracking all this data about yourself, and like I have my face and fingerprint to unlock my phone, and I have my phone. It's weird to think my phone has my fingerprint. It has my face memorized. It has how much I exercise. It has my sleep, not only like how much I sleep, but the sleep schedule. It has like everything in my life on it. And it's just kind of weird to think about how much our lives have started to be on the phone, even if we're not constantly on the phone. Because I have been trying to not be just constantly on the phone as much. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job about that. I've been a little better about not just sitting there on my phone, but even if I don't look at it all day, I still have everything on there. So it's just an interesting thing to think about. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today's segment. So I will continue this tomorrow if I don't drop my phone. Oh, hello. And welcome back to part 2 of this week's podcast, provided everything works this week. Oh, there we go. Mic fell off my collar. I had to reaffix it. Oh, but oh, ho, ho. You know, it's not always easy to just sit down all day. My back's hurting, and I know that's my own fault for sitting wrong and not getting up and moving around, but it is really annoying that something that should be restful can get so tiring. But I know that's definitely nowhere near as bad as the aches and pains I would get if I stood up all day doing actual work instead of just sitting at a computer. So, anyways, what to talk about today? You know, it's kind of strange separating these into segments across several days of the week as opposed to doing them all within a single day. It's a lot harder to maintain a single line of thought across the entire podcast. And I'm not really sure if that's something that would be better to do, or I know I keep saying that this podcast is just for myself as more of a personal project, but I do still kind of want to make it something that is somewhat interesting to listen to at least. But it's kind of, not the most easy task to do when you don't really have a screen in front of you or some other way of taking notes and looking things up and gathering information when it's just yourself and a bit of road and the other people in their cars. It's not really conducive to very extensive conversation. But I feel like I always end up coming back to the same exact things over and over. But I guess that's just what tends to be on my mind at these kind of times. It might be a little different if I were to actually change the time of day that I record on. I've still been thinking about trying to do that, either making a recording in the morning or making a recording around lunchtime. I always just felt like my end of the day recordings, when I did them for a day, the end of the day ones always kind of seemed a bit more involved and active on my part. So I felt like that would be the best time to do it. But maybe it's more that the day was coming to a close and I had already kind of wound up some topics of conversation on the podcast that made it the more interesting time. And without that, having to restart from scratch every day, maybe it just kind of makes it so that no matter what time I did it, if I only do one a day, it'll all be kind of the same slow and more pausing as I pause, phrasing on everything, because it takes me a little bit more time to think of what I'm going to say next, as opposed to already having that topic of conversation going and just keeping it going from earlier in the day. Even though it was hard to kind of maintain that track with hours in between recordings, it still did kind of prime up the pump and get it a little easier to get conversation flowing. But maybe I just need to do better about picking conversation topics ahead of time and then just glance at some notes on my phone. If anybody ever does listen to these, you should leave a comment on it, just saying some ideas for topics you'd want to hear me talk about. I don't even know what's interesting because nobody really listens, so it's kind of hard to gauge interest, seeing as none of them have interest. There was one episode that randomly got uh, 36 views or something. I don't know what that was about. Maybe it just got pushed for no reason. But it's kind of weird starting a podcast and not having any prior experience making anything. And I know that this is not the most well produced and compiled podcast, but at the same time, I feel like it's not the worst in the world. And even though I guarantee this is not going to take off anytime soon, considering how often I jump around between conversations and just do random things, I still feel like just random chance would drum up a few views that would result in at least one watch or listen. But, yeah, well. I still am interested in creating more of a channel. It's just hard to find the time to learn a new skill like video editing, because I learned just enough to slap some audio onto a still image and then set that going. And I need to learn a little bit more, and so I can start making more things, because I am interested in making more videos and actually doing some sort of entertaining video as opposed to a long form podcast where I just kind of ramble on and on. Especially I want to try making some short form content. It's just a little more difficult to figure out how to do that, because I don't know, like with games, I've recorded a couple of sessions of games, but I don't really know how to edit that down yet, and how to like cut and clip. I need to just sit there in the software and figure it out. But I also do still want to do just a little video showing off the minis I've painted, but I haven't even painted at all this past 2 weeks. It's been just a little more of wanting to sit and relax. Because painting, if I do it during the week, I have to do it in a separate room to where my wife and daughter are. And so it kind of just feels a little isolating when I really just want to spend time with my family. And I put that above painting, so I wait until they're both gone to bed and I'm still up a little bit, and then I'll do it for like 30 minutes to an hour or so. But then it just kind of gets late and I get tired and end up just feeling like I should have gone to bed instead. So it's hard to keep up with to some extent. But I'd like to do more on the weekends, because then I can paint while they're taking a nap. But even then, it isn't the easiest thing in the world. That reminds me, my wife's about halfway through the pregnancy now. A little less than halfway, but she's getting a bit of the pregnancy weight on just in the belly area where the baby's growing, and it's just made it uncomfortable for her to sleep at night. And so it's kind of been hard on her. Like I didn't really notice it as much because you can't really tell just by looking at her that she's put on weight. Like there's a little bit of a baby bump, but unless she's wearing some tighter shirt, you can't really see much of it. So it's I didn't notice as much, but I guess she's gained a bit more, and so it's harder on her to lay on our bed because we have a very firm bed. So I took and put a lot of the extra blankets we had in the house and made, I called it her princess in the pea bed because it's this big old bed. Uh, it's our normal mattress, and then on top of that, I put like three, I think three smaller blankets, a crocheted Afghan, and then a big comforter from our spare bed, and wrapped them up on her side of the bed. And now she's was nice and comfy last night, so that's good. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. So I'll continue this with part 3 either tomorrow or Thursday. Hopefully tomorrow. Hello, and welcome back to this week's podcast. Oh, it has been a day today. A lot of busyness. Busyness. I just thought of that. Oh, wasn't too bad, but definitely wasn't great. I just had to check to make sure this thing was still recording because last time I turned it on before I got in the car and didn't check, it turned off, and then that made me not able to do, or it made me have to not do that day's episode. So, anyways, I'm a little tired, but not too bad. Wednesday feels pretty good. Oh, so my wife started, she saw some, I don't know what they're called, overnight oats, I think it was. She saw it, I don't know where she saw it, but she got the idea. I think one of my sisters was talking about it. But anyway, and so she started making them, and they're really good. But it's just like you stick some oats and some milk and a bunch of other random ingredients thrown in there overnight, and it is just like kind of like cold oatmeal. Not, it's not. It doesn't have a weird texture or anything though. It's more soupy than oatmeal. So I guess it's just a cereal pretty much, but you make it by soaking the oats overnight in the milk. And it's nice because she's been making it for me, and I can just put it in my bag if I'm running late to work, which I was this morning. Oh, I definitely like our house better than where we used to live. But uh, the long drive, like, I know it's not crazy long, especially compared to people who live in bigger cities, but the long drive is just a lot. I spend I spend about 45 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes a day in the car. And since we moved offices, it's the same amount of time in the car, but it takes longer to actually get into the office because I have to go in the building and up a flight of stairs and down a hallway. And so at our old office, it took me about probably about 15 to 20 seconds from the time I parked the car, if I was in a hurry, from the time I parked the car until I clocked in. It took about 15 to 30 seconds. Usually I took about a minute because I, turned it off, grabbed my things, gathered them up and all. But now it takes probably about 2 minutes because I have to park further away for one thing, and then on top of parking further away, I have to pull out my key card from my wallet to get into the door, and then put it back, get in the door, go up the stairs, and then go down the hall, get out my keys, and use my other key fob for the door to our office because I have to have that apparently. And then go in the door, and then I can clock in. So by the time I get to work and get upstairs, it takes like 2 minutes, which isn't a ton until you're running 3 minutes late and you need to clock in before it's been 5 minutes late, or else it gets counted against you. And so it's just a little bit annoying because I'm still not used to taking 16 minutes instead of 13 minutes, pretty much. So I always leave about 13 minutes early when I need to be leaving about 16 minutes early. And then I have to leave the door, or I have to be out the door like a minute before that anyway, so it's like 17 minutes. And then if everybody else in the house is awake, I need to be up or start leaving 2 minutes before that so I can say bye and get all my stuff together. So really I need to leave 20 minutes early, and I've just been leaving about 12 to 13 minutes early thinking it's not going to be that much time. But I guess that it takes longer than I think to do everything other than driving, and I've just been accounting for driving when it comes to the time that I need in order to get to work. So I've just been running late a lot, and it's getting annoying because I'm shortening my lunches to make up for it, and I don't like doing that. But it's especially annoying because I really could have been there early, but they don't count. My work refuses to count any time before 8:30 or after 5:30 towards your overall daily 8 hours. And I stay after 5:30 every single day by at least 5 minutes. And they just are not going to really accept that. And it's just annoying because they'll complain if I don't finish up my work for the day, but won't give me any credit if I get there early and finish early. Oh, but I'm just really hating the whole 9 to 5. Well, 8:30 to 5:30. Like, I wouldn't mind it if they didn't keep track of our time so meticulously, or didn't like only count it within a certain time frame. Like, if I could show up a little early and leave a little early, or show up a little late, leave a little late, or work through lunch and leave early, that'd be great. But they are just so strict with exactly what time you have to work that it ends up making me not feel like it's worth the effort to get there early and get in the right times. I really think that that's a big mistake that a lot of people make these days running businesses. Is like, if you're doing shift work, then yeah, you need to have a time in and a time out. But if the office is open and people are working, it should be counted even if they're early. And especially if they're late. Like, you shouldn't say, oh, it's 5:30, go home, but only if you finish your work for the day, but we're not going to count this towards your hour total for the week, when they don't pay hourly and they don't pay overtime. So there's no reason to even be tracking the number of hours we work other than attendance. And so if we're here for 8 hours, why does it matter? But just annoys me a lot, when, especially because like, the owners of the business are never there in the office at all. And I know that they work a lot, but most of it's in the evenings, and I know because I see them log on tickets. And I have to call them in the mornings when things happen and they're at their house doing their workouts or whatever and not working yet. But they make us work already and be in the office to do it too. So it's just a ridiculous double standard. But that's all the time I have to complain for today. So continue this next time. Hello, and welcome to part 4 of this week's episode of the podcast. And I actually, for once, spent about 20 to 30 seconds and thought of a topic. Semi thought of a kind of topic. But it's better than nothing. But I was thinking about, the different plants. I've talked about it before, but I was just thinking about the general concept of landscaping, especially in urban environments and other environments as well. But I was thinking, because my office is right next to the kind of small lake, and it's nice, but I've started like following some more like kind of, I don't know what you would call them, like I guess some kind of like conservationists, I think is the right word for it, but some conservationists on a few different kind of social media platforms who are talking about the effect of lawns on uh, local ecology, and just how much of a negative impact a lawn can have on kind of local wildlife, and especially when you have a larger piece of land, because like in the middle of the city it doesn't really matter other than water use and pesticide and herbicide and all that. Like the things that matter are the pollution and runoff more, because lawns do not provide a enough of a benefit via photosynthesis or any or anything for, like carbon trapping or any kind of environmental benefit. And they don't provide any food or anything. Like lawns are not providing any real benefit to the environment, and they take up water and cause runoff of chemicals, which I know a lot of people, and myself included, don't like the general use of the word chemicals, but runoff of pesticide and herbicide into local drainage systems, which can lead into local waterways, especially like around here, our rainwater drains off into retention ponds, and those just are not something you ever want to go in, because it just has all the fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide, like every bit of runoff and pollution that you could think of in the entire town gets drained into these ponds. So it is not something you really want to be swimming in. Oh, but overall, I still prefer real grass lawns to turf, because turf to me is just kind of ugly. I don't really like it very much. And what I prefer, what kind of got me on the topic, and what I probably should have stuck to, is my wife and I have been talking about, like, if we got our dream house, how much land would we have, and like what would we put on it. And so we were thinking about, we'd want, if we had somewhere in the city with like a lawn, we would want just some more native plants and flowering plants specifically. And I've been thinking about like different types of lawns, because I don't hate grass. It's just when you have nothing but just grass, that doesn't really look appealing to me, and it just takes a lot of time and effort just to make something that doesn't even look that good. Like, it's better than just a slab of concrete, and it's better than turf, but it would look so much better if you had some trees, and around those trees, like a little area of dirt, and then you had like an area where you had a flower bed, and then an area where you had maybe some rocks instead of grass with some desert plants. And there are just so many different ways to do it that are not the plain lawn, that take up less water and use less herbicide and pesticide, or just overall better for local wildlife. Specifically pollinators is the main thing we've been thinking about, getting a lot of local flowering plants, because if you just have a plain grass lawn, nothing's going to use that. But if you get some flowering plants, especially local ones, then you get hummingbirds, butterflies, moths, just all sorts of pollinators that can use those, and especially bees. We want some bees, and we want to attract monarchs. We were talking about planting like a monarch milkweed, I think is what it's called, but it's a specific kind of plant that monarch butterflies and caterpillars absolutely go crazy for and hang around a lot. And so you attract the monarch butterflies, and then you also provide them with their food. And so we kind of want to grow some plants specifically for the local pollinators to use. And like lantanas around here are a great plant for that. And the bees like them a lot. And then like some sage trees, or a lot of sage, and then some, like for the grasses, I would want some local kind of prairie grass or some sage grass, because I think those look good when they get about a foot long, and that's about how tall they stay. And you don't really need to water them more than just letting the rain hit them, and maybe putting the gutters from your house into your grass beds or flower beds is all you would need. And the lantanas need a little bit more water, but not much. They're pretty good with just a little bit of water. And then I would want like rocks with some aloe or cactus for kind of part of it. And then a flower bed with more flowering plants of various kinds, because all those things need minimal added water, especially on like a year like we've had this year where it was super rainy. You barely need to add any water into them, and they stay blooming from like the start of the summer, end of spring, start of summer, all the way until mid to late fall. So they're pretty longer too, because a lot of the flowers that are more seasonal tend to die off pretty quick, whereas like around here the lantanas grow all year long pretty much. Well, not all year long, but for a good 2/3 of the year. And I just think creating a area that's more that oriented towards local plants and supporting the local pollinators, and then low water usage, that all seems a lot better ecologically, but also I think it looks a lot better than just a field of plain grass. And it also takes a little more work to set up, but you'll be doing no mowing weekly. So it takes almost no work to maintain other than, weeding. But that's pretty easy to do. But that's all the time we have for today. So we'll continue this next time. Hello, and welcome to the final part of this week's podcast. I think this is the first one I've done in a while that'll actually have all the parts, because last week I actually recorded every day, but one of the days corrupted or something. This ended up working. Every week before that, there was at least one day where I was too stressed to record. So I would say that's an improvement for sure. But it is Friday afternoon, so I get to go home and enjoy the weekend. I definitely am starting to appreciate Fridays a little more, and just the relaxation that comes when you know that you just get a day off, which I used to not really care that much about. Like, it was nice and all, but it was just kind of another day, and then the next day was when I felt relaxed. But now I feel more relaxed on Friday, just not having the stress of the next day coming already. But anyways, I remember that yesterday I was talking about something, and I didn't finish what I was talking about. I think it was lawns. Yeah, it was. Maybe that was the day before. Either way, I talked about it with my wife yesterday, and she was saying how she wanted a little bit of normal grass just to have a small area of more usable space, and I think that makes sense. But yeah, still, there's a house in our neighborhood that has a really nice lawn that has a small section of grass, but then the front beds by the road are rocks with some bushes and desert plants that are low water usage toward the road, and then the sidewalk, and then on the other side of the sidewalk there's a section of grass, and then most of the yard is taken up by a plant bed that has just dirt in it, and then a bunch of different bushes, flowers, and trees growing out of it. So it's exactly what I was talking about. Just with all that extra stuff, and they have mostly native plants. But yeah, I think that's what I want eventually, is because that house always looks real nice when we're walking by it. But for now, all we have is I'm working on making a homemade flower bed out of fence boards. And then, yeah, that's pretty. We actually have another flower, uh, another plant. I mean, it's not a pot. It's like a canvas bag that has 3 1-foot cubed sections that you can put some smaller plants in. And we need to fill that with some potting soil and grow some stuff next year. We moved like right in the start of end of winter, start of spring, so it was hard to kind of get a lot of gardening in this year. But I think next year we're going to try and do some more stuff like that. I want to get finish up the bed I'm making, and then want to put one little section of flowers out front at least, and then maybe one in the backyard. But I need to figure out what I want to do with our backyard, because we are in charge of maintaining the yard. It's not very big, but we can do pretty much whatever we want with it as long as we're not like making any big changes. I think I need to cut some branches off the tree. When we first moved in, I spent like a few hours just cutting branches off of the trees that were dead and pruning them. And I only did the ones I could reach. I didn't even go up in the trees. So I need to get borrow my dad has this like small chain. Essentially, it's a small chainsaw that's on a pole to cut tree limbs with. And I need to borrow that because I was doing it with a handsaw when we first moved in, because that's all I had. And that is not so fun. But I think I'm gonna borrow some equipment next spring, or maybe since it's fall, it's a good time for it before they start losing their leaves. That way I can tell which branch is which. But of course, it's like right about fall, depending on whether you go off the meteorological fall or the celestial fall. But yeah, so the equinox, I think, is the 21st, and it is currently the 19th. So in 2 days, it's the fall equinox. But I think that it'll be a good time to maybe do a bit of pruning and trimming. That way, when we get back in the spring, it'll already be done and ready to go. But I know tomorrow I need to do a bunch of yard work anyway, because we had a ton of weeds just spring up this week because we had some rain and then a lot of sunlight. So there are just a lot of weeds sprung up all of a sudden. But I'm gonna have to do that, and then probably just mowing the grass a tiny bit, because the grass there's not too much of it, but it's kind of growing tall again. So it'll be a busy weekend, but a good one in terms of getting things done. But I was wondering, since we have the yard and we can really technically plant whatever we want back there, I was thinking about looking at what it would take to transplant some of the local grasses, because there's some like prairie grass that there is just down the road from our house a little ways, and I was wondering if I dig up a little bit of that and plant it, would that grow pretty well? But I need to look up more about that because I want to start, gardening in general, but specifically landscaping, so that I'm doing it for, you know, non non-food plants, I guess would be what it's for. Because I guess gardening is food, landscaping is non-food. And I do want to plant food eventually. Like, we want to garden in the backyard, in the back, or if we have enough land, maybe in the front. But right now we live pretty much right on a highway. And so don't want to plant a bunch of plants that get all the car exhaust. Uh, my wife read somewhere that is not the best, and I'm inclined to believe that. So I don't think it would be too bad, but she doesn't want to do it, so I'm fine with that, because it wouldn't be too much food anyway. It'd just be a couple little things here and there. But if we could get some nice pretty flowers going, I think that'd be good. I was thinking about making some kind of thing to hold up some flowers over the fence. That way they got more sunlight, and also were a little prettier to look at, since you could see them not from the backyard. You could actually see them like on the road behind us. But that's something I'll maybe look at doing later this year. But for now, I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you all for listening, and catch y'all next time.